We're Crowned by Robert C. O'Brien, Chapter 10, The Flight Up the Mountain. Ellen slept in a jumpy sort of way. She woke up often, each time thinking she had heard a sound, and each time reassured when she saw a gray shadow in the dark room. Mrs. Fitzpatrick sitting in the big armchair with the loaded shotgun by her side. Otto never stirred on his pallet. Finally, she must have fallen into a sounder sleep, because when she woke up again, the black windows had turned gray with the light of early dawn, and Mrs. Fitzpatrick was shaking her gently by the shoulder. Ellen sat up. Mrs. Fitzpatrick put a finger to her lips and beckoned her to follow. They walked silently, leaving Otto asleep, into Mrs. Fitzpatrick's bedroom. This was a room Ellen had not seen before, a large room with 4 windows, 2 looking out at the rising mountains, 2 into a flower garden, all misty in the early light. On one wall hung 2 paintings in matching frames, done in dark, somber oils. Both were portraits. One, the face of a young man with a high forehead and fine features, which, when you looked at them, changed from elegance to arrogance and back to elegance again. The other was of a beautiful, fine-complexioned young woman with shadowy gray eyes and shining black hair. Ellen looked at it, then looked again with bewilderment, because it was of someone she knew. But who? Then she looked at the eyes, which had not changed at all in half a century or so. "It's you," she said to Mrs. Fitzpatrick. "It was, a long time ago." "But it's so beautiful," said Ellen. Mrs. Fitzpatrick smiled. "The artist who painted it thought so. But artists, of course, can make their own beauty. At any rate, he would never sell it nor part with it as long as he lived. When he died, he left it to me." She sat down on the edge of her bed and motioned toward a chair next to it. "Sit down, Ellen. I have some serious things to tell you. Some of them I do not want Otto to hear, which is why I left him sleeping in the other room." Ellen sat down. She said, "You mean about the man in the tree?" "Partly that, but mainly this. I have decided what I think is best for you to do. If the intruder was looking for you, as I believe he was, he will not be made any less curious by the reception he got. He will decide that you probably are here, and he will be back, perhaps with friends. Therefore, I think it is no longer safe for you here, and you must go." "But go where?" said Ellen. "Not back to the highway. That will be watched, you may be sure. No, there is another road I can show you, an old logging road, partly overgrown now, but still passable, that leads back straight over the mountains. You see, Mr. Gates was not taking you toward Lexington, nor even toward Kentucky. True, he started out in that direction, and you are now not so far from Kentucky, but the road you were taking, the one where you saw that rock, leads south, away from Lexington. What his true destination was, I do not know, but it was not Lexington. The highway to Lexington runs west, making a great curve around these mountains. But if you follow the logging road, you will rejoin it, and when you do, you will not have much farther to go." "But I can walk that far?" asked Ellen. "How long will it take?" "You can walk that far if you go slowly, steadily, rest often, and take supplies with you. The swelling of your ankle is almost gone. I have the supplies ready. With luck and care, you should reach the highway in 3 days, 4 at the most. It will be hard, but you can do it. I want you to take Otto with you." "Take Otto?" said Ellen in amazement. "But why?" "For 2 reasons. First, because he will help you. He is strong and smart and brave. He knows how to get along in the woods. He lives in them, and he will not lose the way. In any case, an expedition of 2 is always better than 1. If one gets into difficulty, the others can help. The other reason is this. Otto is in trouble, a kind of trouble that I cannot solve. I think that you and your Aunt Sarah can help him, if you will." "But what kind of trouble?" Ellen asked, and then she thought for a moment. "You mean about the trucks?" "There is much more than you realize. First, you must know that I am not his mother, nor do I know who his parents are. I found him more than 6 years ago, wandering, lost, hungry, crying on the road that leads to this house. I took him in. He was perhaps 2.5, possibly 3 years old. He could speak only a few words. He knew his first name, but not his last. He had been abandoned on the highway, and if I had not found him, he would surely have died. He was half dead already, poor baby. But he calls you mother. He thinks I am his mother, or rather, to put it this way, he insists on thinking I am his mother. I tried to tell him the truth when he grew old enough to understand, but he refused to believe. He grew so dreadfully upset, I have not dared raise the question again. Deep down, I am sure he knows the truth, but he will not allow it to enter his thoughts because he needs a mother so terribly. And out of that need he has built a dream, partly true, partly good, but partly dangerous. In this dream I am old, that much is true, but I am also penniless, helpless, and wholly dependent on him, and that is not true. But to prove that it is, he goes to great lengths. That's why he steals things from the truck accidents, Ellen said. Things I do not need at all, Mrs. Fitzpatrick agreed. But there is more to it than you know. The first of the wrecks was an accident, perhaps, even the second, but the others were not. I learned this with certainty only recently, after the wreck you saw yourself. In fact, yet I have been puzzled for some time, and worried. There have been too many trucks running off the road. Why? Finally I went out and looked. I found down the road a sign warning of the curve ahead, warning cars and trucks to drive slow. Near it, hidden in the woods, I found several large leafy branches that had been cut loose, obviously with a hunting knife. And under the sign, I found leaves from those branches. Otto has been going down to the highway at night and placing the branches in front of the sign so the drivers cannot see it. Ordinary cars can apparently make this curve, even so, without going off the road, but for heavy trucks it is too sharp. By good fortune, and only by good fortune, no one has been killed or injured so far. But you can see why I feel Otto should leave. Ellen was shocked. That's terrible, but couldn't you tell him to stop? I could, and he would obey. But then he would surely think of something else. No, the real solution is to get him away. Let him live with younger, stronger people, and forget this strange dream he has built up. Well, Ellen said, I would like him to come, but I don't know what Aunt Sarah will say. If she feels she must, she can bring him back. I will always take him in and do the best I can for him. I have grown to love him as if he were my own son, and I will miss him. And if she does bring him back, you will at least have had a companion on your trip. But I think she will not. So it was decided, and Otto and Ellen early that morning got ready for their long walk. Mrs. Fitzpatrick did not tell Otto that he might be leaving forever, but only that he was to go with Ellen until she found her aunt. The night before, she had sewed Ellen a pair of sturdy slacks out of some heavy denim-like material, much better for hiking than her wrinkled dress. She had also found somewhere a blouse and a light blue sweater, which was slightly big for Ellen, but fit well enough if she turned the sleeves up at the wrists. And for both Ellen and Otto, she had made a pair of cleverly designed bags like rucksacks that they could carry on their backs. Otto was delighted with his and put it on immediately. He had always wanted a knapsack. They had a brown blanket apiece, for they would have to sleep in the woods, and the nights were cool up in the mountains. There was food to fill the rucksacks, a special kind of biscuit Mrs. Fitzpatrick had made. It was tough, but tasted good, was nourishing, and would not, Mrs. Fitzpatrick said, go stale. They took dried apricots and raisins, some small jars of jam, some dried beef, a pot to cook it in, and tin plates and forks to eat with. They took bacon, which Otto knew how to cook on a stick, a dozen hard-boiled eggs, matches to light fires with, and a cake of soap to wash their hands and faces when they came to a brook. Otto put a metal water bottle full into his rucksack. They would refill it from streams along the way. His hunting knife in a leather sheath was strapped to his belt. Ellen put her handbag containing the crown into her rucksack. They were ready to go. Ellen actually felt rather gay, as if they were starting on a picnic, and Otto was jumping with excitement. Mrs. Fitzpatrick walked with them for the first mile to show them where the road was, though Otto was sure he already knew which road she meant. As they walked, she told Ellen, when you get over the mountains and come down on the highway, turn left and go on to Lexington. I think you should not try to hitchhike, but walk along the road until you come to a house that looks as if it might have a telephone in it. That is, any good-sized house. By this time you will be only a few hours by car from Lexington. Ask the people in the house if they will telephone your Aunt Sarah, and when they do, talk to her and ask her to come and get you. If they have no phone or refuse to help, just go on and try the next house. Be careful of the crown, whatever you do. It is priceless, and it has great powers for good. If you meet strangers who are unfriendly or even suspicious, or if you come to any situation that you are unsure of, try to hide it. Bury it in the woods if you must, in a place you can find again. But do not let it be taken from you. Whoever is looking for you is looking for the crown. They may not be sure you have it, since it might have been destroyed in the fire, but they are taking no chances. Especially beware of any group or people who use the name Hieronymus. Hieronymus? Repeated Ellen curiously. Who is that? The first Hieronymus was a saint, a holy man who lived more than 1,000 years ago. He was a mystic and a great scholar, a student of religion. Over the centuries he had many followers, some of whom also have used the name Hieronymus. Most of these were also religious men, but others formed groups who lived apart, often in caves, and studied strange and mysterious things that had nothing to do with religion, but with forces that are, I think, better left unstudied and unknown. It was one of these men who first wrote about a crown like yours. Whether he made it or found it already made, I do not know. He made or found other devices too. He was not a good man, nor were his followers. But many years ago, in fact, long before I was born, all of these things disappeared, and have been known about since only in legends, strange tales from manuscripts about the Dark Ages, and the cults of Hieronymus died out. Now the crown has reappeared, and there may be, though I have no knowledge of this, a new Hieronymus looking for it. Otto, whose attention span was considerably shorter than Ellen's, had lost interest in the cults of Hieronymus and run on ahead. Now he gave a whoop of joy. "Look!" he shouted. "Richard's coming with us!" And sure enough, the crow fluttered out of the sky and settled on his shoulder. "Can he come?" Ellen asked. "Why not, if he will? He has already saved you once. Perhaps he will again." They walked a little further, and then Mrs. Fitzpatrick asked, "Tell me, when you put the crown on your head, does it make you feel any different?" It was the first time Ellen had heard her hesitate. Ellen thought for a minute, then said, "Yes." Until now she had not realized it. "It does. It makes me feel... Feel how? Stronger? Not exactly. Sure, that was clear. It makes me feel sure of things. I don't know how, but it helps me think." And it had, she knew now. It was because she had worn it, even those few minutes before the fire, that she had been able to think and go on after the disaster struck. "I think that the more you wear it," Mrs. Fitzpatrick said, "the more different it will make you feel, and you will be better for it. The crown is by itself only a shiny toy. It is in combination with things, with you, and perhaps with other things, that it has power. I cannot explain it more clearly than that, because I do not understand it myself." Now they reached the logging road where Otto and Richard waited impatiently. It was one of those dirt roads with grass in the middle, but with two clear tracks where the earth had been packed hard by the wheels of innumerable trucks and wagons. Where they stood, the road cut through a clearing, a small field, then disappeared from sight into the trees on its way up the mountain. By the height of the grass between the tracks, it was clear that it was no longer used much, if at all. "This is as far as I will go," Mrs. Fitzpatrick said. "Otto, come and kiss me goodbye." And he did, though in a most embarrassed way. "Ellen, I wish you safely, and remember what to tell your Aunt Sarah." She meant about Otto, and Ellen understood. Mrs. Fitzpatrick stood and watched a long time after they started up the road. The last time Ellen turned back, she was wiping her eyes with a handkerchief, and then she set out for home, walking rather wearily. The two children strode up the trail in good cheer.